Art, you know, you can make war, you can make art. With art, it's like you're putting a flame out there, and every single person is like a kerosene soaked rag, and when they find the right flame, that, you know, they light up. My name is Zach Bartz, and today I am painting with acrylic on a thrift store painting. I live right across the street from a thrift store, and you know, I only started painting about 3.5 years ago, and before that I never painted because I was always intimidated to approach a canvas. The concept of what fine art was and what fine art materials were, so paint and canvas, whether it's oil or acrylic, it stopped me from even wanting to start. So I had to work with expendable materials in order to relinquish myself of the judgment and take risks and make discoveries, so that eventually when I do something, you know, because I'm relaxed, I can do something and discover that I know how to do it, and then I can take it to a canvas. I can buy oil paint. But for the most part, it's, you know, I go to the thrift store and I pick stuff up, not only because it's, you know, the smart way for me, you know, in terms of cost, but it also provides a well of information and inspiration in terms of like whether I'm painting on a globe or a partition or just a frame. I was living, and I still live there, but the place that, you know, it's kind of like the headquarters for Shithole is, you know, it was this great attic, and it was covered in art, and I was telling people, I'm like, oh, just draw something. If you can't, because with Shithole, it's free if you stay until the end. Otherwise, we ask you donate, either cash, time being the most important, just see the whole show, or visual art. And I was telling people, just draw something, draw anything. If you don't like it, sign someone else's name. You know, it just matters that you make something, because it's all forward motion if you don't give up. But I was telling people to do this, and I wasn't making any art myself. And I had built this like 5-foot, we were getting a lot of snow that winter. It's about January. We had a ton of snow, and so I wasn't painting, so I had this free time. I built this 5-foot snow bowl out of ice. I mean, so we had the snow skates, like a skateboard, but snowboard material. So I got hurt skating in this big ice death bowl. And while I was, you know, upstairs hanging out, is, you know, looking at the art, and had been going to the Art Institute and started learning more about the Impressionists and the Modernists, and how these were just everyday people that if you saw them on the bus, you probably, you know, might not sit next to them. You know, we think of people like Van Gogh, we hear these names and automatically they have this esteem, and we think, oh, I would bust out my fine china for this guy. Oh, I would give him an honorary doctorate at my school. I would let him sit at the head of my table. I would let him, you know, be, you know, whatever. But in reality, you know, a guy like Vincent van Gogh sold one painting in his whole life. No one really, even other contemporaries, people, you know, a lot of them didn't appreciate him the way that we do. And, you know, people like Renoir and Monet are, you know, sharing a bottle of wine and splitting a loaf of bread. And you know, now they're these, you know, pillars of art. They are the definition of art. But they were just people who were doing it, who were actually hated for the work that they were doing. Like, the name Impressionism was a slam that they spun, and we're like, well, getting the context for those pieces of art helped me get the confidence to say, if I just make something every day and I don't stop myself, the same way that when, you know, when I was focused more on doing comedy, you know, I'm reading the news, I'm trying to write a funny Facebook status, I'm trying to write a funny tweet. You put it up, if it doesn't get any likes in an hour, or if it only gets like 2 or 3, you delete it because it's embarrassing. You don't want people to know you're not funny. But with visual art, I said, I want to put everything up. I want to say, this is what I can do, it's the best I can do. Because there's that Ira Glass quote, it's, you know, there's your taste and there's your technique, and your technique is so far from your taste that you could recognize that your work sucks. But if you continue to make the work, eventually your technique matches, maybe exceeds, or they grow together, your taste. So I was like, I'm just gonna show people, and if they like it, they like it. If not, this is what I'm gonna do. This is the best I can do, and I'm going to paint again tomorrow. At the end of your career, whether you are a composer, you know, a scientist, a visual artist, whatever it is, you are judged not by your averages, but by your peaks. So the best way to, you know, statistically make the most peaks is to create the most amount of work you can. And by increasing the sheer volume, you have a better chance of hitting a peak, and that raises everything else. You know, the high tide raises all ships. One peak suddenly makes everything more valuable. You know, tub thumping made people listen to the Chumbawamba album. I'm not trying to be Chumbawamba, but there's something to be said about if you get one great thing, everything else suddenly has some sort of context or worth. And then you might make another great thing and another great thing. And so that's why, you know, another thing, my mom gave me this magnet years ago. I don't remember who says the quote, but it's a year ago, what will you wish that you had, you know, done today? You know, just a cheesy idea, but the sentiment's there. You know, if you start now, you're only gonna get better. Eventually people wanted to buy them, and I started feeling like I was growing and getting better and making more discoveries, and so I'm still painting. With my visual art, my main thing is I'm trying to connect, affect, and inspire. I'm trying to have an audience connect with the work. I want it to affect them, either to react in some way, whether they really like it or they dislike it. I want them to feel something, and I want them to inspire to either, you know, make work in response to it, say, oh, I love that, I want to make something like that, or say, oh, that sucks, let me show you how it's done. Either way, in the relay race of art, I have passed you the baton. I have done my leg of the journey here. Cool, now you keep it going. And in terms of style, I just say abstract portraits. You know, I basically make abstract portraits, colorful portraits, because I'm self-taught, and the use of color is the most interesting thing to me. But I primarily paint faces, so faces are the most interesting to me. One of the things that deterred me from making fine art was the concept of bowl of fruit, boats in the ocean, flowers, you know, fine art ideas. Faces are, you know, it's what we deal with the most in our lives. It's the other people, it's ourselves, it's personalities, feelings, you know. So when it comes to this piece here, you know, I had a framed painting I got from the thrift store. You can see I even left the price tag right here and just painted right over it. I always, you know, my big philosophy for painting is, you know, the only way you can waste the paint is to leave it in the tube. You just gotta start, you know. So once you start, you have a catalyst for action, you got catalyst for discoveries. So with faces, I always start with the nose. And once I get a little bit of the arch, I try to use a lighter color in the center, just to demonstrate, you know, that, you know, light is hitting the nose and the head. And then I do the eyes, and then I try to, you know, hit some sort of variant colors here, build the face once the face is built, and kind of try to proportion how I'm going to use this whole frame. In this case, I went over the frame just because I like it feeling like it's jumping out. I also like the dimension. You got these ridges on here that are really cool. And then once you have the face, make a couple active choices, just like in improv. When you go out into a scene, whether it's off a suggestion or off of something someone else has done, you make a few bold active choices that define your character, and they're not the number one, you know, through line, but there's something to start with. And Dan Wilcop, who I improvise with in Narnar, who, you know, we run Shithole together, I share an art studio with him. Dan taught me one of the biggest, you know, art lessons I've ever have yet to learn, and I think it'll always sit there as like the biggest thing. He taught me, because when I was starting, I was drawing the outlines and I was trying to color it in, and he said, dude, put the color down first. Trust that the color will fill in what you want it to be, just like I did when we were making this. I put all the colors down first, and once the color is there, then put the black line on, and it will always look intentional. And I'm not going to try to paint up to the line. I'm not going to try and erase because I went over the line. The line goes on last. It's a frame within the picture. As an improviser and a performer, you know, I like being in front of an audience, and I like not knowing what I'm going to do, but trusting that I'm going to figure it out. You know, I like not having lines, but knowing that the lights are going to be up. So also with painting, I like working fast. And that's something I always got critiqued for. People said, oh, take your time, take your time. What would happen if you spent 2 hours on that piece? What would happen if you waited 2 weeks on that piece? What if, people like Ivan Albright took 12, 15 years for a painting? I don't have time for that. I don't want to. I don't want to just do one thing, Great if someone else does. But I'd be in my attic and I'd, paint 20 paintings and people go, oh, you should slow down. But then if I'm in front of a bunch of people and I paint one painting, they're like, oh, cool, maybe speed up a little bit. But if I paint 20 paintings in an hour in front of a group of people, they're like, whoa, that was cool. And it's a way to merge that, the painting and the performance, being, not being able to just wrinkle up a page and be like, another, everyone's watching. I have to be accountable for the work that I'm making. And that's the difference too between doing improv or theater and making a painting. Theater is intangible, it's fleeting, it's gone the next day. Whether or not it was a good or bad show, it's on your resume, and that's really all people care about. With painting, if it's a bad painting, I wake up tomorrow and it's still a bad painting. I have to look at it. I had to sign it. I'm accountable for it. If if a car alarm goes off in an improv scene, I can pretend my phone's ringing. Oh, happy accident, nice improv. If I get a big old splotch across the front of this face, not a happy accident. Like, I'm not a Dada artist. I fucked up. I gotta fix it. So there's a difference in that. So being in front of an audience and painting, it keeps me making interesting decisions, using variety, because I'm making anywhere from 30 to 70 pieces. If I make the same painting over and over again, people are like, cool, you can make that one painting, great. But if I make a variety of pieces, not only do they go, wow, like that's a lot of range, whoa, like those look cool together, but the art informs the art, and people can find their own context between the different pieces. And also it's a nice way to not have to really keep a sketchbook. I have a sketchbook when I'm, I work at the Art Institute, so when I'm sitting at the desk all day, I have a sketchbook because I can sketch there. But when it comes to being at home, I'd rather just get up in front of people and make a ton of work, and then when I'm done, I can just go back and I can work on a canvas. There have been, the best thing is when people say, I'm not an artist, but this makes me want to paint. It's exciting to inspire somebody to want to make some art when they don't think they can make it, because I was in that same boat. And I never knew the world that was going to be possible if I, and painting is not some sort of like key to happiness, but I do firmly believe that improvisation is a skeleton key to creativity, and that in any sort of facet, whether it's business or performance or any sort of art, improv will help you create something. So I have been improvising since 2005. I started in Wichita, Kansas. I went to community college in Coffeyville, Kansas. They had a great improv program and theater program there. I did 2 years there before moving to Chicago permanently, finishing my degree at Columbia, got a bachelor's in theater, did the comedy studies program through Second City. I've been improvising weekly with Kevin Garrity, who co-founded Shithole with me. We have been improvising weekly since 2012. We currently play as Narnar Shredtown with Dan Wilcott, who I brought up earlier. We do our own two-person on-stage, one-person off-stage form. It's a lot of internal transitions, and there's no sweep edits. We're on stage the whole time, and we don't just stand around. We try and move and stay interested, and if we're going to do this, we need to do it the way that we redirected our lives to do art. We can't compromise every day. We have to find a way to do it the way we want. So we started Shithole in September of 2013. We've done over 440 shows in under 5 years. Anywhere that doesn't charge money, doesn't promote, and will let us kick people out if they talk. We put up 20 to 25 performers who are passionate and prepared, meaning they do anything from stand-up and improv to spoken word, burlesque, passionate and prepared. They do a 4-minute slot. They have to come see the show first. Audience members can't talk, like I said, and they have to message for details. We don't put a calendar up. We don't have a Facebook page. We don't have, there's no location. You message, we'll give you street corners and a phone number. And if you're still there, then we're gonna give you a great show. But we need people to be invested and wanna be there. The big thing that I always go back to, and this is for Shithole for painting, for Narnar Shred Town, for the improv form that we do, for teaching, for any creative endeavor. There's a Basho quote. It is, "Seek not to follow in the footsteps of the wise, seek what they sought." So it's not about, if you love one person's journey, it's not about just walking in their exact same shoes. It's about analyzing the circumstance that they were presented and the product that they created to conquer and achieve what they did. So, and then looking at your own circumstance and saying, how do I take the spirit and the essence and the heart of that and then make my own version?